So here's what we're going to do today. I had a few questions from some newer members that I'm going to mix in and answer with some things. All right, we're going to go look at one of the indexes. Right off the bat, one of the things I want to get across with this first lesson, we'll look at some of the markets we've been working on. But right off the bat, I want to drive home a point. The lessons that we're doing here and the practices, they're directly and immediately applicable to your current trading. That's one of the things we do. So you can take whatever we do today and it can be applied to your practice, to your trading immediately. It's not something that needs to be figured out, or at least to your learning. And, you know, it's my job to just kind of reiterate and show that. We've been following this. That's true, and that's what's fun about being here. So you get what I'm talking about, Edward, right? It's immediately how to. I don't do a whole lot of blowing smoke. I just how to, and then let's go practice, and then we talk about it. And there's not many people doing that kind of a live work also and showing it. But whatever you learn, I mean, don't think it's just something to sit on for a week. Go practice it immediately. And I'm going to show how it applies. I do that every week. You know, for instance, we have been following this yen. I haven't been making it up. We've been doing it live over and over. And we've been showing various little entries here and there using the same techniques. And we left it Friday with just one simple line. And I want you to soak these lessons in when I talk about that. Just one sentence. That's what it's doing. It looked awful juicy, didn't it? I need you to get that in your bones. And then come Sunday, you know, we haven't beat this. Facts, Jack, right? Even if you didn't make money, this little thing saved you tons of money. And it's directly applicable in no matter what you're trading. But Edward, I'm going to show kind of immediately a mix of some lessons. And what I want to get across is how we can break them down in digestible pieces to learn. And that's a lot of what we do here. You know, so here's the yen, and, you know, boom. And we're still going to keep following this. This is what's called a very simple continued behavior. You guys heard me talk about continued behavior and the principles and babble all about it and the theory behind it and the definitions of it. This is the actual what's going on here. It's a principle. It can be with gaps or it can be with swings. And that simple understanding can lead to some simple trading decisions. And once you can find swings, you can also, you know, find median lines. And see, this is one of the reasons why my lines are somewhat precise, because, you know, I'm drawing very precisely on things. We talked about the interesting little gap here in the try, but, you know, it's not that complicated. So that's the first thing I want to get across today, is these lessons are directly applicable. The next thing we're going to do is I want to reiterate what we started, especially for you people who are new. I want to reiterate what we started at the beginning of the year, actually just before the year. We set a direction for things sometime late last year. We set a direction in regards to being able to learn markets in a structured way by using frameworks and that kind of a thing. And then we started working it to build out the presentations of that. So I want to reiterate that whole direction today that we started on, just so that we're all still clear on it. We were setting up basically a structured way to learn, analyze, trade markets in sort of a step-by-step fashion. using various frameworks and using simple things like this to let Price teach you. So it's very important we always start from the right place with any tool we use. If we don't start with the right approach, with the right attitude, you get what you get. If you're just looking for a system, you get a system that won't work. There's no systems that will work. And so you guys remember we said, you know what, we got to structure this learning of markets in some way. Not make it rule-based, but we got to structure the learning part in some way. And we'll build out a whole coursework. And so I'm going to reiterate that today because everybody needs to keep that in mind for their trading. It helps ground you. So if we get time, we'll hit that later today. Because it's important to keep that in mind because, you know, we forget. We forget. So we'll look at a few markets, a few things we were looking at. But let me show you how lessons were directly applicable, recent lessons, since we've been following the ES. And thank you for the original question from a member. I get another question. I'm going to mix this question in with this lesson. I got another question from somebody. And so he says, I've been trading for several years. I'm new to median lines. And I was wondering what the criteria you use to decide if you want to use a standard median line or a modified Schiff median line. So we'll save that question. Okay, we'll save that question. We'll think about that. And he says, I've watched the sessions this past Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and was wondering if I would take the last few minutes of each session and show one of my previous trades with an explanation of what you did and why you chose it. I think this would help me tie it together. The things you are showing in the first part of the session with the ultimate goal of how to use them and set them up for a trade. See, I like the way he phrased that, right? We do the practice, we do the technical work with the ultimate objective is, all right, we have to use this, right? What's the practical use of this? So I like the way he's thinking about it. What's the pragmatic use of this lesson? You know, how does it actually look in the rolling around in the mud, weird stuff, right? Good idea. But you guys, you know, you've seen me do various, usually I do these on Fridays. By the way, I don't trade every day. So, you know, I don't know, you know, I have 3 to 4 trades a week sometimes more. You guys see me on Fridays, I usually take apart some trades. And it's very important that you not just see, oh, here's the magic line, and there's my magic entry, and I did wonderful, and all you have to do is that. It's very important that you kind of get a behind the scenes. What was my experience? What was I seeing in this market? And that helps you tie things together as a way to look at the market and the trading. Because just showing the line, that's the form, that's the system. That's saying, all right, dude, come over here, do this when the line hits, and do that, and there's a statistic. It's almost useless. It's just basically a starting point when you get that. And so I like that he's asking these questions. I'm probably not going to give an explanation of my trade every single day because I don't trade every day. And by the way, I'll do days like Friday where I'll show you my stops or my really dumb trades. So you'll get a mix of a little bit of everything, and you'll see my thinking behind it. And one of the interesting things is my thinking behind a stop that I get stopped out on and my thinking behind one that works out, they're both valuable. I wouldn't change a thing most of the time. So I want you to understand that part. So you're not going to win on every single trade, but I don't want to guess. So even if I get stopped, if I did what I did and I'm not guessing and I put together what I put together and I get stopped, that I still want you to see all that. And I want you to see that you're going to get stopped too. But whatever you do, don't just try to mimic anybody's trades because you're your own person. I'm seeing things in my own way. And it's my job to get across not just how I'm seeing. See, this is where these lessons are important. Not just how I'm experiencing and seeing, but my goal is to teach you pieces in a digestible manner so you can get to the same truth I've got to. Does that make sense? So I'll give you what I'm thinking. All right? That makes sense, Grace? But, there's going to be a lot of little thoughts that we don't, I'm never going to be able to give you all of them. If I'm intimate with a market, I've been following it. It's got a certain behavior. I've been thinking about that. This is happening. And, the bus is going by and I'm not paying attention. So there's a lot of things. But what's important for teaching is not just me showing off. It's important that I can get across some digestible pieces that you can come to the same truth that I come to, or anybody can come to if they're looking at this. And that's a very important thing, because you take 100 people and there's 100 different experiences and views of the market and what it's doing. But if we can take certain things, certain truths, and you can learn how to do that in a step-by-step fashion, then boom, you are learning now. That's real learning. And so I try to break things down into these pieces, and then I'll pragmatically and practically show you how they come together. That's the difference in what I do here. That's the difference in what we've been working on. And it's kind of a different mindset, but it enables real learning. So let me just show you what I'm talking about. We've been following this ES. So let's apply a few of the lessons that we've been learning to today's market, and I'm going to show him my trade and what I was thinking. He's asking me, right? He wants to tie it together. I'm going to give him an explanation, an understanding of what was going on in my crazy mind. Because you don't want to, believe me, you don't want to see everything going on in my crazy mind. I mean, come on. I can't do that. I mean, it's nuts. I'm crazier than most of you, except for Edward. But you do want to see what's pertinent for the year, right? Be careful what you ask for. You do want to see what's pertinent to the trade. Because I'm going to have emotions as well, guys. I'm going to be like, I did this. I lost last week. I'm not real sure. But there's a difference, And this gets to the internal side. We need to practice there too. But let's take some of the lessons into this morning's ES trade. Lessons we've learned here that aren't all that complicated. Okay? And I really want to show people that this is doable for them. So many times traders come and they think, oh, I'm this big wig trader or whatever. And, you can do what I do. I want you to know that you can do this as well. It's not mysterious. The only reason this stuff gets mysterious is because people hide stuff. Either because they don't know what they're doing, or they don't want to give it out, or they just want to keep charging. But this is doable for everybody, and it's not as difficult as it seems. Sometimes we feel small in the face of all this. It's not all that difficult. It's not easy, but there's a simple part to it. And it's hard to realize that, yeah, man, some of us, we can do it too. Or even if you're in here, one of the hedge fund guys in here doing their thing. Even if you're making good money, there's no reason you can't keep working towards mastery. Mastery of yourself, of your tools, of trading. We can always get better. I can always get better. Okay, so let's apply some of this stuff. So one of the first easy lessons we learned that we'll apply. So we followed this silly ES from up here. Throughout the week, we did swings. So one of the first things we will do is just, what's the size of the swing? It's that easy. Oh, look. Same size. This is what's known as one of the lessons, a continued behavior. It's doing it until it's not doing it anymore. And, if you can do this, you can also draw median lines easy enough. So this was the first lesson. So we have an idea that the market has got some kind of agenda in mind. I'm giving you my thinking based on the lessons we've taught. And if you're new, you probably haven't heard me spiel all the way about this for hours. But a lot of people here have drilled it in. But it's continued behavior. It's some kind of organized behavior. That's what they're doing. Period, the end. They're doing this. And so as we get into this morning, well, we can also do, remember the instructions, we can also do minors. So we're following the major, and this was an immediate lesson. We're following the major. And let me also see if I can get across this experience to you, because this doesn't always come across. It's hard to transmit this unless you've been around for a little while. My experience when I'm doing this isn't tense. I'm following them rather than I'm predicting them. So right away, I'm looking at the market, doing my work. I'm a bit relaxed, which is very important. Why? Because I'm tuned into following them, not forcing them to do what I want them to do. I might have an opinion, but I need to set myself aside. So right away, that's the first part. Yeah, it's sort of a roadmap, and it's very simple, It's not coming out here and doing this, or doing this, or drawing. No, it's very, boom, chart ripped. Okay, this is what it's doing. And so I'm following. I don't know. I don't know what it will do. I know we're about the length of the minor, and price is trying. So, I do my work, I'm watching it. Okay, it doesn't make a new low. It's still trying. All right, we make a new low. So, I keep following the minors and the majors. That's all I'm following. I'm getting a handle. I'm getting a read. This is not a system. Notice I say I'm getting a read. Okay, are we going to go the length of that guy? Yeah, are we turning? Are we going to make a new low? No. Okay. There's a few little details. You see the tail. See, this is our, right here, this is one of our lessons, by the way. This is one of our lessons about the pivot components on a bar level. So I can see a pivot's being made. Let me find the chart here real quick. I can see a pivot's being made somehow. And I have a pivot requirement, which shows me, supply demand. And it's basically some sort of swap of a tail and outside bar gap on the left, tail outside bar gap on the right. You see tail, gap, that's a swap. It's showing me a swap in there. I have another pivot requirement chart that we made. And by the way, when we make these lessons, right, when we do these lessons, I build them out live so we can all learn as we go. And that's part of the structure of what we've been doing also. So rather than just say, here, do this, we build it out live and talk about it. So this was one we worked on. You can see I have a tail and a gap on the right. So immediately I could see my lessons. And, if I'm paying attention live down here, I can see, oh, gap, tail, swap. That's a pivot. Okay, we've beaten the red. Now I go like this. What are we going to do here? Now here's the practical side of trading and what I'm thinking. I mean, what are you guys wondering here? Anybody? If you're watching this market with me live this morning, okay, just what are you wondering about now? Practical wise, for actual rolling around in the mud trading. Is it going to make a new major, right? Is it going to keep continuing in this fashion? Or is it going to change? We don't know. So I asked myself, what would be a clue for me knowing that it is going to change? Anybody? And I'm trying to apply our lessons that you can be watching. Now, you might not be able to keep up with it all in real time, especially if you've just gotten the lesson. But that's why I'm here also. Okay, Pete said, yeah, if blue gets beat, we know it changed. But what if we want to go with blue, Pete? That's what I'm wondering right off the bat. I'm not wondering about change right off the bat. It'll tell me if it changes. I want to know what's going to tell me if it continues. See, I'm not sitting here saying the market's too far down and picking bottoms. I'll leave that to other people. So I'm asking myself, what lessons have I taught that I can apply myself? Everything I teach, I do myself. What lessons can I apply here? And I'm also thinking, and I think of you guys while I'm trading too, I'm also thinking, all right, will somebody who I've taught these things to be able to see this if they were tuned in? So I'm watching that. You know, I watch and see if I can improve my teaching on that a little bit. So I'm thinking if it continues, what will tell me I can get a trade with the continue? If it doesn't continue, okay, then I can start thinking about maybe the other way. If the gap down holds, let's look at it this way, Raj. If price is going to, so I'm just trying to get you all in my head here. If price is going to keep continuing, which it's doing, doesn't it at some point, somewhere near here, going to have to show me something? Yeah, it needs a pivot, right? And so I got two ways to go about this now. So this way, not only am I following price, I can get on a bar level and I can follow the buyers and sellers on a bar level. See, I've already got a pivot here. Will there be a pivot here? Well, we just did a wash and rinse lesson, and we have our bar lessons, and we have, maybe there'll be a minor swing in here lesson. Right? See, there's all sorts of ways for price to tell me it's going to turn rather than me saying I've got the magic. Does that make sense? And the person who asked the question, if you got more questions from that, just let me know. See, I can draw a median line, okay? That's easy. And what do you think the median line is telling me? A median line takes the A to B pivot and projects it from C. And it's saying, well, that's the median line. And just as Grace and everybody else mentioned, if we zoom through, well, maybe there's a trade to the other side. And then we can also consider what happens if we expand. That's another lesson, but let's keep this one simple. We'll look at this expansion in some other markets that we've looked at just for learning purposes. So you're watching it live, and notice I'm following price. Okay, I notice I can get long maybe on the little swing, but I'm following. I don't know what it's going to do. I don't know what it's going to offer me. So I watch, and I see it's hard up. Okay. Outside bar. See, what I'm doing when I teach these lessons, I'm teaching you to see these things in process. So while you're here, without knowing what's over here, see, process is one of the principles that goes through everything I do. So while you're here, you don't know, but you can be set up watching the process, like this exact one right here. You can watch the process. Just like a mountain has a process. First it gaps up, and then it has to hit if it's going to be a mountain. And here I'm marking the, how do we mark outside bars? Well, we're just going to mark like that. And so right away, I know, well, look, the market's going up. If this outside bar, this effort down and rip their heads off, gets swapped, that's at least one indication that price is turning right around here. I don't have to I got a median line. I don't care about tests on it gets a little sloppy sometimes, right? You have to, watch it. You have to watch what they are doing via the line, via the swing, via price. It's them. So notice I'm building up a whole thing to try and get you to see what I'm seeing. I'm following them. Right now, I ain't touching this thing. I mean, it's going up. I'm kind of sad I ain't long. But, I go, I check myself. What's price doing? Boom, boom, boom. Why shouldn't it keep doing that? I had a student I taught this kind of thing to. And, the markets were really flowing at the time. And we set him up a thing, and he started just, you know what, as long as it's going, he is going to hit every single one. And he did too. And when it changes, he's going to get stopped. And then he's going to hit every single one. He did pretty good in the I think it was the oil he was trading at the time. Think about that little lesson with the yen we're watching. One of them's going to give on you, and you'll get stopped, and that's how you know. It's a very simple thing. So we watch. All right. Let me ask you, let me apply another lesson here we did on Friday. Can you see the possible process, the stacking, the MPL, of a wash and rinse possibly creating a pivot? Can you look and see? Look at them stacked in here. Look at them stacked. Look at the sell. Can you viscerally feel the sellers hitting at this level? Boom, boom, boom. And then look at the bar that goes through it. Okay? Look at the bar that goes through that level. This is a serious level of sellers. And this is another way. Yeah, you see it? This is another way you can take that lesson directly and say, that's interesting. We come back through that. Maybe I have something of a pivot up here. So we watch. Price is going up. The facts check. I'm not predicting. That's the difference in this particular trade I'm doing. I'm not all that nervous. I'm not predicting. Well, I'm a little antsy because, I'm not sure what I'm going to do here. But you know what? I'm not going to cry in my soup if price keeps going and I want it to go down. Do you guys get that? I'm kind of thinking it's going to turn. But we say, oh, don't have a bias. I'm kind of thinking it's going to turn. It's there, guys. I admit it. It's honest. But I'm not going to force it, no matter what I think, because it doesn't care about me. It doesn't care about my line. It doesn't care about my little wash and rinse. None of that. It does not care. So I want price to show me. I have an outside bar. I have a gap. Now, price doesn't always give you the exact thing, but it fits this exact model. And by the way, like I said, we build these out live and talk about them. We'll probably do them all over again. And I posted these charts in the reference charts. See, this fits. Look, outside bar, gap. Doesn't have to retest, but that's the typical entry. So as I'm doing this, I'm thinking, yeah, anybody who's been in the recent lessons, who have seen the pivot components, or at least seen the wash, should have an idea that price is thinking about turning right about there and right about at the median line. Now I'm going to include, and not everybody has been in here for this, but I actually did a blog post on this, on some of the things that price does. So let's get rid of this line for a minute. And it helps to draw these out. It helps you to understand. It helps for you to draw. But I've actually did a blog post on this where we have a swing, okay? And then we have a minor swing. Let's set this up like so. And then price comes up through washing the minor. And we call this minor into major. See, we're breaking the minor, and the minor's actually creating, see the red minors? The minor's actually creating the pivot component for the major. So everybody get that? Let me see if I got the slide we made. So this is another way you can see it in your mind. See, this is the slide we made, and I did a blog post on this. So basically, and you'll see, can you triangulate 0, 1, 2, 3? I'm sure you can, Michael. I'm sure you can. We're not going to go that far now. This is, say, a big, nice, spread out framework to think about that I just simply call minor into major. And if you practice with the things I've been teaching about major and minor swings, you'll start to get this in your experience that this happens quite often. You get one major, you get one minor, you get one major. It's pretty prevalent. It busts this guy up here. See, here I've labeled it into steps. This is an old slide. You can, I think this is what Michael was talking about. You can use this pivot to project that one. You can use that pivot to project that one. And that just has to do with expanding markets. And you'll see this in, I don't know, you've seen this in Andrew's course where I've pointed it out. I think I got a slide of that too. See, there's lots of little lessons. See, Andrew, see it hitting the outer parallel? See it, the little swing? So imagine that this, he doesn't show the rest of the chart, but I want you guys to get this. It's just another little lesson. So imagine price had swung, no, that's not a good one. Imagine price had swung, okay, like that. And, you know, you take that major leg and you break that minor. Do you see the minor getting washed here, guys? And do you see this particular median line? Capturing the expansion. Okay, it's just another little lesson, but I don't want to confuse it with all of the lessons. But our tools are built to help us see these things, as Michael was saying. Our tools are built to help us see these things one way or the other, because it captures the expansion of the minor swing. A lot of little, but we'll keep it simple here, Grace. I'm including some of the median line tools, but this is all you need, right? Boom, pivot components. Okay, you know, I draw a line. I look, you know, I check out, you know, my volatility. You know, I'm basically going to, you know, double that. I'm going to think, all right, can I get above the pivot here, the effort here? Yeah, I can do that. Does it give me a 3-to-1? Yeah, it gives me a 3-to-1. Notice I'm not predicting market. And if I'm wrong, I'm not guessing. Okay? I'm not guessing. And it's the exact lessons. It's this little guy plus this little guy. 2 things. That's it. I just added stuff. 2 things. This guy will happen to give you a target. Things, see gap, things tend to retest, not always. Don't get scared. You don't scare me. Don't get scared. Make a plan. You got a plan. You have a stop. Don't get scared. If you were too scared here, maybe this is another chance. And so then this is not a surprise, is it? We're going down like that. And so that was just a very simple lesson with some of my thinking, which was really just, I wasn't thinking about all these little things I mentioned. It was just, okay, there's the pivot component, and we're about at this size swing. So hot, right? So simple too, isn't it, Mike? Like, all right, we're doing that. Why fight it? I don't care about what's going on in the news. I'm just watching markets. That's it. They all line up that perfect? No, but you see, Price told me it would. Price said, hey, you, wake up. Time to do a trade. Look cool. Now, you see, I show you this, but I want you to notice it has nothing to do with my special talents, because I'm slow. It has nothing to do that I haven't taught that anybody here can't do. You might not have put it together. You might have been clogged up. You might have been thinking other things. But it was nothing you couldn't piece together a couple of the lessons and at least see and learn whether you pulled the trigger or not. You know, pulling the trigger, that's a whole other story. I understand that. And so I'm thinking, yes, you can take these lessons. It's directly applicable from last week right here and trade the ES. And you made good money. You really don't have to do much more after that. You did pretty good. You can trail it if you want to, you know. It really doesn't matter. If you feel like trailing it, trail it. But, you know, prices swing. This line seems to capture things pretty good. So, you know, you just keep running the line. This is what price is doing until it's not doing it. Okay, it's doing something different now. And then you move on from there. But it's the end of the day. It's over. It's done. History. But, you know, you keep watching. And you don't get too caught up. Are all trades that easy? No, they're not all that easy. But, you know, sometimes the lessons just pop right out. Do they all offer a nice entry? No, they don't all offer a nice entry. Let's take one more market we drew a median line set on so you can see what happened. Here, I left it. This is what we drew on. See, notice how I drew particular median line set. We did this Friday. Didn't know what price was going to do. Now you get to see how price can expand. And what did it expand into? This guy. Right around there. Gives you a gap. Little bitty outside bar. But, you know, it doesn't really give you a retest or anything. Sorry. I don't know what. Can't really help you there. But, you know, that's part of the learning. As for the question about modified shifts for standard, for now, there's a whole separate lesson. Draw both and see what you can learn. They're both taking and projecting the impulse leg. As a rule of thumb, you might want to use a modified shift when things are just steep. But other than that, in order to answer that question fully, we have to take apart modified shifts and standards a little bit, which we'll do. And then we can answer that fully. All right. One more little thing, just because the markets are so dang interesting right now. $240 yen, or 240 CAD. We took an entry here. I want you to see. That the market is basically in the same position. It's been at the top of every one of these pivots. I want you to see that. I want you to see where it's come off near the top and gapped and then held. Come off near the top and then gapped and then held? We don't know. We're going to watch this going forward. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this particular lesson. But we're going to keep an eye on this guy up here, okay? I got hammered here, so I'm just going to watch it for now. But this is part of our live work. Here we are. Live. Boom. Upper parallel. We're swinging up. Does that change? What clues are there? Let's learn to look for the clues ourselves and things that we can take into future trades. I wish I'd have saw this before I took my short. Duh, huh? You don't see everything. All right. Another example of expansion, but I'll let you guys suss that one out. This is from our gap work, by the way. Here's what we're going to do. I want to take some time and reiterate some things. Oh, I have one more question, and I want to try and answer him really quickly. A new member. He was looking at one of Tim's YouTube videos and was wondering why, or if there were clues or why Tim took the trade there, or if there were any indications that price would either bounce or go through that area on that video. So he was wanting to see what was in Tim's thinking, the kind of thing we just did. The guy asked me what was in my thinking. It says, in both cases, Tim Wardge implied it was possible to spot this. I'm not sure if it's something that comes with experience and chart time, or whether there are things to look out for. Well, some of it comes with experience, but some of it comes with what we just did. You get the experience by not just chart time, by actually applying some of the lessons. By applying some of the lessons. So my advice to him, I can't speak for what Tim thought or saw on that. You'll have to ask Tim. And if it's a YouTube video, it was probably some time ago, so I don't know. The best thing you can do, you're a member now, is watch now and ask questions. If you want to know why I was thinking what I was thinking, or Tim was thinking what he, now you can actually get live. Do it now. Or if you have one of your own trades that you were wondering about, these sessions work best with questions. So it's kind of hard to spend time in old videos, and nobody really remembers what's going on. I barely remember the date today. But if he didn't state what he was thinking, you might want to just ask him. But it's a long memory by now. The best thing you can do is move forward. So, for instance, you saw on Friday what I was thinking in the yen. I pretty much stated it. We did it. And so be here now live and get your head out of the old videos for a while and make use of this, because you can get a lot out of it live, and so can everybody else. That way everybody gets some of the lessons going on in here. So that's my suggestion. And he asked something about the premium membership. Says there's a forum where people post charts and he can't find it. Everybody's doing that on Slack. It's not exactly a forum, but there's some rooms. We used to have a forum, might do something like that again. But if you're not on the Slack, email support and make sure they get you a thing to get on the Slack so you can see what everybody's talking about and anything anybody posts. And you can see in my own reference charts there. So hopefully that answers that. All right, now let's do this, because this is important. All right, I'm going to run through a few slides. What I'm doing here, all right, I'm going to reiterate the direction we set early last year for things we are doing. It's not just haphazard come in and show trades. We're doing lessons. We decided we were going to structure our learning of trading and markets. Do you guys remember that? Sometime maybe December or September or November, one of those months, we decided we were going to build things out, and we were going to come up with some structured ways for learning. Yeah, late last year. Okay, good. You remember it. And for those of you that are new, we kind of set a direction. We said, all right, you know what? We're going to build almost like a trading course school structure thing, and we're going to do it live. I'm not just going to do all the work and say, here, do this. So we're going to suss this out live, and we're going to have a direction rather than say, oh, this has a statistic or that has a statistic and this has magic. Because I don't want anybody to think that a particular trade just comes with 20 years experience. You get the experience by learning certain things. So even if you guys remember the direction we set, I'm going to go back over it again. The whole idea is to structure our learning in some way, but not make it too tight. So let me just go over this and tell you how we set it up, just remind you. What I've done, we have a bunch of different methods. Think about a method as, okay, we're going to use gaps, or we're going to use swings, or we're going to use fibs, or we're going to use median lines, or we're going to use V's, right? And just use that. That's a method. It's a form. It's one particular method. Now, I've built out a dozen. These are a few of them. And the big thing I wanted to get across was the importance wasn't in the method itself. See, that's where everybody in trading gets sucked in. This method is this. Believe in this method. It's got statistics. This method is the Holy Grail. No method actually works, but people get sucked in. This is the magic secret pattern. Everybody's making money. There's nothing wrong with these methods and these patterns. There's actually nothing wrong with fibs and GAN. There's nothing wrong with this stuff. I like to base my methods off of principles and swings and supply demand. So my methods are a little bit more price-based and organic. But the main point is, it's not the method that's important. It's what the method does for how you see markets. Like, did you see how I was looking at the ES? I was kind of relaxed using a very simple method. It was focused. It was objective. It wasn't a system, but it was a very simple thing that let me get rid of all of the all the craziness and let me relax so I can see a trade. So built into this design, I decided to build in a lot of the internal stuff people talk about and just build it straight in rather than, read books about psychobabble and all of that. And it's a learning and doing. But for Phil, for learning and doing, we have to have some objective ways to do it, right? And so that was our goal. I think it was a new member asked a question, right? How do I build a morning routine or something? Yes, I've had the experience of relaxing through the method. You've had that, Grace. Yes, good. A lot of people tell me, oh, wow, and then boom, it clears up, right? So first it takes me for a while, and it probably takes you a while to hear me, that it's not the method that's really important. But I've got a bunch of them. I've got probably 80 setups that I've documented and worked on. So let me go through this, okay? So I'm calling a method a framework. It's a way to hold the market. It's a viewfinder, a way to view the market and take the noise out. All right, so we build a framework or a structure to see the market, and then we have freedom within that structure. All right, the various frameworks and methods are designed to enable personal insight and real learning. That's the goal, so that the method teaches you, or helps price teach you. Personal insight, that needs to be highlighted. Because without personal insight into the matter, you're just believing something I say. So this was a very important thing for me when I decided to design, say, this type of structured learning. I thought this out. I worked it out. We did a lot of it live, thanks to you guys. I would have never gotten this far without that. And then when it's done, we do PowerPoints and we say, hey, look, we have this thing. Now, the thing is, not every method's going to jive with everybody. That's one of the reasons I use a bunch of them. Everybody's running at a different mood and thought process and frequency. For some people, this 1, 2, 3 expansion is just going to freak them out. That had to do with that little minor swing going into a major swing, and it's going to cause you tense. It's not going to be your way. Doesn't mean you can't learn all about it, but it's not something that's going to work for you. But gaps and mountains might really work for you, okay? So this is the other thing that's been missing in trading. It's turned into, all trading schooling, teaching, is turned into sort of a dogma. Do it this way. This is the way. Flying C's, the secret sauce, Edward. He's asking about Flying C's. This was one of my first secret sauces. It's a median line method, by the way. It goes into flying U's and K's and everything. It's not something I've done here much because people tend to get a little carried away with it. But I usually do it with students, on their second round or something. But it's a framework. But if expansions aren't your thing, maybe this is your thing. Maybe somebody else really jives with expansions. And so we each have a different way about us. And that's important, not to say, this is the way, this is the way. Do this always. Just like with money management, there is no one absolute thing. We talked about that Friday. And it's the same thing. There's no one absolute holy grail. You will actually, depending on your temperament, gravitate to one or the other. And that's important to have that choice. You can learn them all, and you will learn plenty just by learning them all, because we'll build them all out. We're going to build all of these out here. We actually built this one, didn't we? We built this one pretty much all the way out. And so we're going to keep doing that kind of thing, building these as we go. But I'm kind of giving you a way to hold all this. It really doesn't matter which method you trade with. So, for instance, on that ES, I was just using balanced, reaction legs. It was really that simple. I can mix it with the pivot components and come up with a trade. So, again, I'm trying to set the attitude. The purpose and objective for each framework, each method, it's all about learning, all right? It's a reference point to map, orient, ground yourself to price flow, to use the framework as a vehicle for learning, to use it as a vehicle for learning, not be used by it. It's all about price, okay? Trading your tools. I got to reword that. Huh? It's about yourself, price, your tools. We're going to learn. I want you to learn about price, want you to learn about your tools, and want you to learn about yourself through the method. That's how it's designed. So we're going to use significant supply-demand things and spread things out, pulling the noise out of the market, just like we did with that ES. We pulled the noise out just by looking at swings. We didn't have to look at a million things, and we just saw waves. That's all I see. I saw waves. Simple focus will relax your mind in trading. Relax is the key. The other thing the methods are going to do, just by working on them, they're going to train, like we've been doing with swings, in isolating and being able to see for yourself relative structures. These are like push-ups. You just, by doing this, you keep learning more and more about relative structures. Over and over and over. Hey, Rita. I'm happy to have found one framework that I understand and can work with. I'm happy not to go back and forth, including many things, which is confused. Good. That's good. See, you found something, and you can go and just use that and not go back and forth and do. But at some point, Rita, as you get a really good handle on that, you might be able to actually, to your advantage, maybe include a gap with it without getting confused. You see, as you learn and as you train, you might be able to add at your own rate anything that might help you. You don't have to, but you can stick with that. And then what I suggest you do whenever I'm teaching something else other than what you're stuck on, you just kind of listen and hold it in the palm of your hand, right? And learn the price action stuff and learn what I'm saying and help you, frame it in your frame. And it will help you one way or the other, because all of the things I'm teaching about, I'm planting seeds all along the way about price, about the internal stuff. But Rita said it right. You find something and boom, because this is about you making money in the end. I'm grateful that you're teaching it in this way. Yes, good. And I'll go back over that method and we'll learn some more about it, right? And maybe here's one of the things that happens, Rita, and I want this to happen to everybody. Me too, right, Phil? So I'm good. This structure has been doing some of the things. Here's what I want to happen with the simple methods. See, all of these are really simple, Rita. They're all pretty objective. They're very simple. One's not for you. One might be for you. But here's what happens with the simple. If you keep following the simple like those little swings, and you stick with that one thing, eventually it starts to whisper secrets to you that you weren't hearing before. Say, I never saw that before. It was right in front of me. You get that? Exactly, right, Phil? If you keep your attention on the simple thing, it starts to whisper secrets. You see, the balanced swing, I've been doing swings since the beginning, and I'm still learning. Gina says, it's funny how I've watched you present pivots a number of times, and all of a sudden I'm now just getting it. Yes, that happens, and that's why these lessons are helpful, Gina, because at one point you're not ready to hear it. But as you work your butt off, and I know you work your butt off, and you get more experience, maybe next week you're ready to hear something that you didn't hear before. And as you get more experience, learning, then you hear something, I repeat, that you didn't hear before. Grace gets it, yes. So that's what we're doing. And that's why I don't just, email the framework in. We need time to process. And so all of this is structured around that, and I'm glad it's coming across. I appreciate your feedback on that. I use a few other things, Rita says, but I'm doing it as I use it for. Yes, so lots of seeing. Good. So let's keep going. So we're going to train in these relative structures, and it will start to whisper its secrets. Pretty soon, Rita, you'll see something that you weren't even trying to see. That's the beauty. You weren't even trying to see something like a tail that's a mountain, and all of a sudden wow, there it is. See, it'll fall in your lap, and that's how this works. Or presses, same thing. And the other objective is to teach you to set yourself aside and follow Price. We talked about that with that ES. And ultimately, we want to learn from Price itself. I'm a guide. Price can teach you everything. Rita says, all good to any new people. Stick around at least 2 or 3 months if this resonates with you at all, and it gets deeper every time with more insight. That's right. You got to stick around because I take a little bit getting used to, huh? You might spend a few months saying, what is this guy talking about? Nah, thank you, Grace. It takes a while. I mean, the trading education thing has really got people wrapped in knots. All right, so each framework, here's another important aspect. Each framework that we build out, this is how it's all very natural. These principles will run through any of these. It's not you have to mix and match, and this is special. This will run through every single one. Relative, minor, major, and bar level. Continued behavior or change in behavior. 3 basic types of trades in the try. Process. Everything moves in process. We talked about that a few minutes ago. You follow it in process. It will have a beginning, just like a pivot, a center, and an end, and components that make up that process. So although, say, presses seem simple, you guys see that it was quite involved in the end with that simple thing, and it takes practice. It's more because my teaching isn't linear. Yeah, we can't do linear dogmatic teaching. It won't apply. It won't apply. And so these frameworks, they're learning vehicles rather than systems. If you approach it as a system, and I'm already going to tell you, you're going to approach it as a system. That happens. It's just natural. You just got to back yourself out of that. You got to get disappointed in the system and back yourself out of it. But just know that's why I'm spending so much time right now. That the vehicle was designed with the simple rules and objective to enable personal learning. I'm just saying that these are different paths up the same mountain. Find one that resonates. So any questions on this? This whole sort of school-type structure. And if you're new, you can email me. And if you're not sure, it will come out as we do the lessons. But this is sort of let's set our foundations again. So when we're doing swings and tails or whatever, we're not just, does this work or does this not work? You need to have this behind everything we're doing. All right, no questions? Good? Phil says lots of practice. So remember, this is one of the interesting parts here, the principles. They run through everything. If a principle doesn't apply to the ES chart, but it applies to the euro, it's not a principle. Right? It doesn't run through everything. It's not a common thread. If relative doesn't apply to V's the same way it applies to balance, It's not a common thread. If I can't do the 3 basic types of trades on each one of these, it's useless. It's just a situational thing, and let people argue about if it works or doesn't work. And everything will have a process. It has no choice. We're born, we grow, we die. Everything. Nothing lasts forever. The strongest buildings don't last forever. Nothing lasts forever. And so these are important principles that we talk about that run through it all. So I just have a few more slides here to give you the overview of this whole thing. So here I just take the principles in a little bit more detail. Everything is continued or change in behavior. We just looked at that in the yen. It's still continuing. And this relates to structures or lines. Continued behavior is behavior that is repeating or stays the same. There's some sort of organization to it. It's a contraction. Contract, expand, contract, expand. There's some sort of agenda. And by knowing that, oh, the market just formed up in something I can see. It's not chaos anymore. That little piece right there, that if you can do that, can help straighten you out. Entropy, yes, Gina. Good. You see this. Change, it's easy. When it quits doing that, it's a type of expansion. And we can talk about this for hours, but I'm just going to go through. Process. Everything is in swings or cycles, a series of actions or steps taken in order to achieve a particular end. If you're going to build a chair, it starts with 1 leg, 2 leg, 3 leg, 4 leg, a seat, a backrest. It's not a chair until it's done. If you just have 1 leg, it's a baseball bat. And if you have a baseball bat with 1 leg, you can help Edward with his discipline. Beginning, center, this has everything to do with median lines and process. And as we learn the components and the process, we can make decisions along the way. See, the result, see if you can hear what I'm saying here. The result is a small part of the whole process. You don't know until it's done. I would think that one of the biggest problems, internal problems in our trading, is that we leap from here to the result of the end of the trade without going through the process. And this disconnects us. Yep, you get that, Edward? That's a very important thing. It's been written about in 100 ways. It's been written about in, sports advancements. Basically, what I'm saying, Grace, is that one of the biggest problems we have in trading or doing something skillfully is we put our focus on the result. So we put our focus, before we're doing anything, right, we put our focus on the result of a wash and rinse. So we're thinking here, and then we miss everything that's happening along the process. And like I said, this has been written about. It's the same thing as saying, you're going after the goal, putting the cart before the horse. And you miss everything. I forgot what it was, some famous pitcher that said, basically what he did, he didn't concentrate on the strike. He said, all right, I have to wind up. I have to do that right. I have to reach back. I have to step right. I have to ground my foot right. And he followed this in process. And by his mind following the process, he was able to be present with what he was doing rather than just thinking I need to throw a strike. And he was a world-class pitcher, and he was describing how he did it. He says, you got to do one thing before the next. If I'm thinking about the catcher's mitt, I'm going to screw up my stance or my grounding or something. And so this is a very important thing. It's expectations. Go jumping ahead to the result, being in Tahiti while you're in New York. See, I say it here, you can't be where you're not. We can talk for an hour on this, on the internal side of that. And actually, the frameworks are a way to relax that. Following a wash and rinse in process is a way to relax that real time. Following a press in process is a way to relax that in real time. So I'm not just telling you, don't do this. I'm giving us ways to practice it. And that's an important part of this whole structure. I'm not just saying, oh, don't do that. What good does that do anybody? I'm going to do it anyways. So we need to have ways to practice with this, to actually see, oh, look, if I pay attention to what I'm doing, I have to do this before I do that. Don't skip that step just because I think it's, insignificant. And then pretty soon you're acting very skillfully, very precisely. Your sloppiness starts to leave you. You don't need the hardcore disciplines. Got it? Thank you. All right. See, it takes me a while to answer you. Relative distinctions. All right. This is still part of the principles. Everything will have a major and minor. Median lines have a major and minor. And bar level, sloped, and horizontal. So we're going to isolate those. It runs through every framework. All this runs through every framework. And the 3 types of trades is something we go over. Type 1, type 2, So this is just a little more on that. Now, as we move forward, okay, I've kind of set up the design and the frameworks and all that. As we move forward, we will build live a presentation for all of these things that have to do with trading. See, trading actually, although we can make it simple with some things, there's a lot involved. And you can't just do it all at once and jump to the result. To actually plan the trade, find the entry, manage the stop, track your results. How do I document? How do I keep track? How do I practice? It's a whole real training, not just here's the secret pattern. So what we're doing, and we have been doing, see, we've been doing this, right? We're building presentations out for each of these things. A whole presentation just for continued and changing behavior. A whole presentation for process. A whole presentation for the 3 types of trades. A whole presentation to talk about relative structures. Because if we see a tail, we also want to know that that tail is a mountain. A whole presentation for the pivot requirements and learning the language of price. You see me do a little bit of this each week. So I mix in a little bit of all this stuff, and then we sort of pick something and spend, 2-3 weeks, a month at it. A whole presentation just for median line tools. You see, we talk about this stuff a little bit during the week in live markets. And then we have our structured lessons where we take one thing apart for a month. There will be reference keys, right? We'll build those. Like we have all the reference things you guys see in reference charts in Slack, we built those out live, talking about it. And so that's how it helps sink in. There will be a presentation on this side about how to practice. And I mentioned some of that in the big press structure presentation at the end. But it needs its own isolated thing. Do you see how I'm isolating little things to focus on them one at a time? That's part of a structured way of learning all of this. Sure, I can show you the trades like the member asked and my thinking behind it. But my thinking behind it actually includes all of this. Training also. And we're not going to do this in one day or 2 days or in a weekend workshop. These things, I need to do them. I need to ask you, do you understand? You say no. I say, all right, let's go see it another way. I ask you, do you understand? You say yes. Somebody emails me, I don't get that. I say, all right, let's go look at it. Now let's go look at it in different ways. Here's the model. Let's go look at it in different markets, in different situations. And we build experience that way. So how to practice, that's a biggie. Because if we don't know how to learn and how to practice in an efficient way, then, we're just sort of sliding over everything. I can teach you the framework. I can teach you the pattern. I can teach you the flying C. But more important would be how to practice with that flying C. And Edward, you've been big on that. I know we've emailed back and forth. A presentation on how to design a mooring routine. Even the spell checker doesn't help me, huh? That is built for you and your unique needs. That's pretty bad when the spell checker turns me down. Boy. We're doing a little bit of this right now, right? How to design sort of a practice routine. We started that last week. A whole presentation on journal work, and we do that, I don't know, we do that here every few months. You've been turned down by worse. You've been kicked out of worse places, huh? You've been kicked out of better places than this. So the journal work, we do some of these sessions every few months. The trade planning, the documentation. It deserves its own little section. I did a whole seminar on this. And then, there's the whole internal aspects of trading and how to practice with them towards mastery. We get into, it's not as mysterious as it sounds. It's just basically, we use some of the tools to relax ourselves. Then we need to learn about risk management options. We did a little bit of that Friday. And very important, notice I say your own. This can't be linear. This can't be dogma. This one size fits all, because everybody's different. And everybody is going to bring their own crazy to the markets. And so you need to know how to, number one, spot your crazy with the journal work. And then number two, find ways to design your own discipline. There's somebody like Edward, he's gone through this whole show until he's worked it out and knows himself very well and has designed very good disciplines, but they're not one size fits all for everybody. But just that work is incredible work, and it shows his professionalism, even though we got to hit him with a bat now and then. But you can see he's relaxed with it all. But he's got a lot of work into all of this, many years. So we need to be able to do some of that and learn how to do some of that. Your issue isn't going to be my issue. One person's issue is going to be chasing a market. Another person's issue is going to be afraid to enter a market. And so we need to learn ways to design, almost like prescriptions around that kind of a thing. Lots of learning and working on being centered. Yeah, that's a daily practice, isn't it? All right, so individual things we build out as we go. So I'm just trying to, especially the new people, give them the direction we're going. We hit a little bit of all of this all week long, and then we usually focus on something. Right now, we're focusing on some, easy morning routine. And eventually this thing will build out into a big, nice, easy, simple thing. So here's some, I put some examples. Rather than build a whole presentation, I'm just going to show you some examples. I did some examples. So for instance, if we're talking continued behavior, this is the recent market we looked at. This is the pound. It's real easy, right? Same size swing. Continued. You get two of them in a row. It's an agenda. How do you spot that? Is it objective? Is it simple? Yes. It's not an immediate method that says you immediately get long, but it does tell you the facts, Jack. Something happened. Woo. It's a very simple way to see things. And it's a lot easier than all the people hanging on the Brexit news trying to figure out who knows what they're talking about. Because I can make it easy for you. None of them know what they're talking about. None of them. That whole Brexit thing was priced in years and years and years ago. Markets discount the future, guys. Get off the news. We can use the same principle with V's. Doesn't have to be swings. This is why I'm saying it goes into all frameworks. If we're using a V framework, oh, look, I've got two V's that make new lows and hold. That's continued. Oh, look, it changes. Now I'm more set on making decisions, and I can come in and I can say, all right, do I have a stop? Do I have there's a big tail, there's a gap, there's a confirmation pivot. Do I have something there? There's a little swing, and I can make a decision off of that based on what price is telling me. It's so dead simple to listen to what price is telling us. It's such a simple idea to listen to them and not you, but yet it's so hard to do. And so, we keep going in that direction. This is just a quick slide of one of the principles, 3 types of trades. That's all I'm doing now. I'm just doing sort of a quick overview. I want everybody to see at least a quick overview. We have a push trade. This applies to all frameworks. See, I put 2 different frameworks here, a gap and swings. It means we're pushing the market. And I did a blog on some of this also. We have a type 2, means we're expanding. And by the way, this is where that little median line Michael was talking about comes in to capture the minor expansion. So Michael's got quite the eye for all the stuff. And then there's a number 3, just a flat out reverse. And it's good. Like we watched gold do this live. It's very interesting, huh? On a weekly chart. It's important for us to get skin in the game and see it live. And then we have the try. And all I did down here was list them. Hey, Pete, is this available in the reference charts or on market geometry? This, I think it's in reference charts. If not, I'll put it in there. I think it's in there. But I also did a blog post on some of this. And don't worry, we'll be going over it again in detail. We'll hit these things in more detail and see if they got more secrets we haven't got out of them yet. We went over these gap tries for like ever until we got sick of them. So, Pete, you're kind of new, but you'll see that. If you don't be in too much of a rush, because then you kind of jump to the result of, I'm a big trader before you, learn all the little steps. It's important that we set foundations along the way. I know it's not popular to slow everybody down this way, but I found it's necessary for learning, especially for me. And here is a slide we built when we were talking about process. And this is, again, how you can get your mind to quit jumping to the result and follow the process in real time. If you understand and follow that, it keeps you up to date and present, real time, and understanding your options. And I just draw a little example. You have a coil. A coil turns into a gap. A gap can turn into a mountain. A mountain in process can turn into a wash. 3 gaps in a row, and I'm not calling it 3 gap attack, guys. That was their name for it. I call it an alley-oop. 3 gaps in a row is telling you we've just reversed. And it's the same thing as a median line that gets to the median line and zooms it. You guys see that? See, there's an understanding that comes with the work we do. See this boom, boom? This wash that doesn't wash? It's a median line set. See, this is a swing. A mountain and a valley. A mountain and a valley. It's this. This is this. And it takes some practice to see that automatically. And when I see that, I also see this. When I see this, I also see that. And if it zooms, I see that. If it zooms here, I see Andrew's basic rule. Zoom the median line, you're liable to retest. It's all a lot of information, but it's not so bad if we take it slow. So this is just a little thing on process. That's all. The 3 types of trades go into a process. And then relative, this is a very simple thing on the relative principle. Here I'm just using swings, but we can use relative gaps. We can use a tail is the same as a mountain. If we're talking relative, which will take some training, you'll eventually be able to see that this is an inside bar and this is an outside bar. See this? You'll eventually be able to see that this is an inside bar and this is an outside bar. See this? I'm glad you left my relatives off the diagram. Yeah, right? But this is what's possible with the work. You don't have to look at outside bars relative. But, you know, the understanding, like Rita says, she's focused on one thing. But, Rita, if you just sort of soak these in, it's going to saturate you anyways without you having to focus on it. And it will come into that little bit of a subtle understanding of a trade, you know, that little bit of a intuition part of a trade that we don't fully understand. That intuition just doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from relaxing and understanding and doing some work, and it just sort of soaks. So that's relative also. You know, we want to also, you know, we want to understand that a tail is basically a mountain. 2 tails is a valley, is a swing. So I'm rolling over this fast. This is why we will end up spending time with it. This is just an example of a framework. This is what we completed last month. All right, this is just an example. This is the front page of it. And you'll see it comes with some easy to follow instructions. And even if you're new, I think you will have access to those recent recordings. But it comes with some instructions and some notes and objectives and some information. But it's easy, right? Identify 2 swings. Do it on a bar level. Each has the 3 types of trades. So this is an example of a particular framework we were calling presses. And so this will be like our front page for presses. And then we'll go and we'll learn all about them. And we'll do that again. We've done that once with this one. We did it in pretty good detail. This is another example we built out live that we'll do again of gaps and mountains. It's an example of a framework. So don't break your brain on these right now. It's just an example. Some simple instructions, minor and major, right? 3 types of trades, the try. It helps that I've been obsessed with this stuff for 20 years and have looked at every inch of it, and I can guide us through seeing the simple of it and get you to see the simple of it. It's just boom, boom. If you look at what I did on the pound this weekend, it's this. The pound just happened to hit the minor and roll rather than the major. Just go back to earlier in the session. It's this. Contract, expand, contract. Let's see what else I got. Okay, this is more of me beating you over the head, that's all. Saying it's not a system. It's just saying there's 2 really, you know, if I break it all down, there's 2 main parts to all of the teaching that I'm doing. One is learning the instruction technical aspect. This is a median line, this is a tail, this is a wash, okay? That's one aspect. It's hard enough. The other aspect is, you know, the internal, the discovery aspect, how to learn and learn from price flow. And I've been talking about that all along here. And this is something we built out in like December or something. Principles, train, you know, so on and so forth. You hear me just beat on the learning aspect here. Learn how to learn from everything, from me, from being stopped out. Take your training into life, from going to your target, from frustration, from getting mad at your kid. Learn it from everything. It all goes into trading. There is no trading life and separate life, guys. Everything you do in life is a trade. You trade your time for this, to be here. You trade your money for that. You trade work for this. Everything, you buy a house. You go to the movie instead of do this. Everything's a trade. It's just that here we pay close attention and do 3 to 1 and all that good stuff. I think we'll finish up with this. This is just sort of the end goal and things broken down, okay? This is just sort of the big framework and what we've been doing and working towards. What I've done here is say, all right, we want some sort of mastery. There's some operating principles that have to do with price. There's some operating principles that have to do with trading. And there's some operating principles that have to do with skill. Each one of these principles breaks down, and that's part of what the rest of this presentation was, breaks down into different distinctions. The language of price, all right, trading principles, appropriate flow, stop and exit. Skill principles. See, I'm getting a little funny here. If you want to make a nice grilled cheese, you can't do it any way you want it. You have to adhere to what grilled cheese demands. You got no choice in the matter. That's actually a profound thing to think about. If you want to make the best dish in the world, you can't do it any way you feel like it. Taste has to be the ultimate arbiter there. So this is just sort of a breakdown. You do need cheese, right? You got to start with cheese, Gina. Same thing if you're making soup, right? Things need to be balanced. If the salt doesn't say, hey, you didn't put enough of me in there. Or it says, wait a minute, there's more water. You need more of me. See, it doesn't argue. You missed one, Grace, making grilled cheese. I'm just saying mastery and skill, you don't get to have it your way. You have to adhere. If you're making grilled cheese or soup, you have to adhere to what taste demands for grilled cheese and soup. And it's the same with a trade. You can't just do it your own way. You have to adhere to the principles of doing something skillfully. And that is listening to what's there, correcting yourself and aligning yourself, getting in rhythm with what's there, and then joining in. Same thing with making grilled cheese sandwiches or soup. All right, so that's enough of all that. I don't know what else we got going here. That's enough of all that. So that was just another pivot requirements, all kinds of stuff going on. That was just another way to get us grounded again as to what we're doing. Okay? That's all. We include a little bit of everything in the lessons, but we spend time on each one of these as we go, and I make time for it, like we did with the presses. Right now we're doing a little bit on, just simple balanced swings, minor and major. Any questions? And just by doing this, you have a way to set yourself up with markets and see and apply the lesson going forward, or get over here in this tick chart and apply the lesson to this oil market going forward. There's going to be extra little details and humps to work out, like, how much data and all of that. What's a major swing? What's a minor swing? And, we can talk about all that. We can work with all of that. All right. Appreciate you, Edward. I appreciate the questions, and I appreciate you guys getting on board with this, last year and learning this way. And it'll eventually come out into something very structured, right? We're not done. Thanks, Mark. So we'll see you guys on Wednesday. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks, Grace, Gina. And if you have any questions, just email me.